Ancient technologies. So the void. So this is the small void above the entrance to the Great Pyramid, and then there's a bigger void which we have yet to, um, you know, look into. But the small void that we got to look into, here's some images of it. So this is what we see in there. Now, of course, when they first announced it and showed it, they were like, "Oh, there's nothing there. It's empty. Not a big deal." Incorrect. It's a very big deal considering the fact that there is something there. There's a lot of stuff. There's so much in there that I'm aware of because I'm smart, but a lot of other people aren't. But there are some people that I've seen that have started to notice that there are some important details inside this picture, inside this empty chamber. This is definitely one of the biggest finds in the Great Pyramid so far. It's the smoking gun, as they say, when it comes to dating the pyramid, specifically trying to prove that ancient Egyptians are the ones who created the pyramids. I believe they didn't, but hey, I'm not against being proven wrong. I am human, so I'm not perfect, so even I can be wrong, but I'm usually not. But anyway, if I'm wrong, you gotta have proof I'm wrong. It's not enough just to believe I'm wrong or say I'm wrong. You have to have proof. So I want the proof. I want proof that I'm wrong, that the Egyptians are the ones who created the pyramids, and that this pyramid was specifically for Khufu, right? So what am I talking about right now? What am I proposing? I'm proposing that the evidence, the proof, is right here. Now we can find more proof throughout the pyramid, but right here is the first place we should definitely look for proof of who built the pyramids. Because here's the thing, something I always notice, they always try to portray the Egyptians as basically half-naked people that built stuff, which means they didn't have footwear or gloves when they did the work, which means their fingerprints should literally be on every stone on the pyramid period. So every stone on the pyramid, outside, inside, all should have Egyptian fingerprints, right? For example, right? Because they weren't wearing gloves unless we proved that, well, they definitely was wearing gloves, then I'll make a video about it. But for now, it's like, we're going to assume and go with what Egyptologists believe, that they did everything with their bare hands. So there should be proof they did things with their bare hands, because, or that they did anything, right? That the Egyptians are the ones who built the pyramid, because we should be able to find their fingerprints. What else should we be able to find? You know, what I want them to find. I want them to find, all right, I want them to find DNA. Now, you know, in the limestone. Now, limestone, you know, would have fossils and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised that there is DNA inside the limestone, which I expect. Right, I expect there to be DNA in limestone, not really DNA in granite. So that's a totally different topic, because that makes it much easier to find. If there's DNA, then that's DNA that wasn't in the stone originally. That's DNA that, you know, that was put on the stone after the fact, right? So granite DNA testing would be better, but right now we have so many people in the King's Gallery walking and touching the walls that there's tons of human DNA, modern human DNA. And yes, there'll be Egyptians that touch the walls, the King's Chamber walls, and a whole bunch of other non-Egyptians, right, will have touched the walls in the Great Pyramid. So that won't be the best place to test for DNA, because I know for a fact there's going to be a whole bunch of DNA in there, just because of a whole bunch of tourism. But this location here in this image, no one's been in there. The only thing that's been in there is the camera, the little I forgot what they call it, little wire camera that they use to look in there. So since no one has physically put their hands into this empty space, means whatever DNA we find there, right? Whether we find, because here's the thing, here's how you get DNA is, you can find DNA in spit, sweat, urine, blood, of course, right? Everybody automatically thinks that. Hair follicles, I just remember my hair follicles, and skin, right? And I'm gonna go there. Black people, be ashy, right? Their skin dries up, be ashy. So I expect to find a lot of ashiness in the Great Pyramids. Just saying. You should find a whole bunch of ancient Egyptian ash from ashy elbows and ashy knees, you know, all over the all up inside this chamber right here, this empty void, right? So there's that. Hair follicles, right? Hair is hair. Hair falls off, constantly. Urine, okay, because they're working for long hours, drinking, and at some point they need to piss. What if they piss literally on the stone? What if they pissed on the pyramid itself while they were working on it, right? So that's another way you can get DNA is to piss. I mean, we can find poop that simplify things. There'll be DNA in there. But sweat, that's the main thing. They're gonna sweat a lot. They can spit. They can spit, and that's another way. So basically, body fluids to get DNA. So there should be DNA samples in the Great Pyramid, specifically in this empty void. So in this void, we should be able to find the DNA, and that would confirm, that yes, the Egyptians built it, and when did they build it? Because we probably can categorize and when specific Egyptians, were. So we could probably do carbon dating, stuff like that. If we find DNA, we could do carbon dating more likely and figure out when these people were working on the pyramid at the time. You know what I mean? So that would be one of the best ways to carbon date. So this will help date the pyramid. This will help prove that the Egyptians were the ones who made it. A lot of people already believe they did. Some of us, like myself, I was like, I don't think they did it. It probably was done by a different group of people prior. Not saying that they wouldn't be classified as Egyptians. It's just they would have been a different group of people. They probably called themselves something different and just so happened to live in Egypt and made the pyramid. But Egypt wasn't called Egypt. They had a different name. We're just saying that it more likely wasn't the specific 4th, 5th, dynasties of Egyptians who made the pyramids and didn't make it for, to a tune, because more likely it's technology. That's for another conversation. Most of you already know that. But I just want to point out that in order to prove that at least whoever did it, because it'd be crazy if we find the DNA, a whole bunch of DNA samples of like monkeys or something, like literal monkeys, like chimps and orangutans and stuff. Like, wait a minute, why are we finding a whole bunch of animal DNA here? And the animal DNA is not really that old. Like, they're as old as the pyramid, but they're not older than the pyramid. So it's not like that DNA came from, that means the DNA was put there when the stone was put there. So that means the DNA is pretty fresh. So there's a high probability that, yes, monkeys made the Great Pyramids. Ain't that crazy, right? Like, or some type of apes like creature, right? That'd be crazy. But another possibility is we could probably find some Chinese DNA or some I'll just leave it at that. We might find DNA that isn't the DNA you think we will find. Like, I expect there to be DNA, and human DNA specifically is what we were looking for. If there's any animal DNA, I'd definitely be interested in that, because that would prove that humans and animals work together to build the Great Pyramid, but that's for a different conversation. But the thing is, definitely want human DNA to be able to pinpoint, like, okay, what humans did this? Was it the Egyptians? Was it a previous civilization? It would be crazy if it turns out it's DNA of a civilization that we don't even know, that we're not even aware of. It's like, wait a minute, we know a lot of ancient civilizations, but now we found DNA of a civilization of people that we don't know who they are. So we have this unknown civilization. I know some people are like, oh, those are Atlanteans. Maybe, but until we have proof of it, it's just speculation. But what if we find some unknown civilization DNA in the pyramids, specifically in this void? Just saying, it'd be interesting.